Well, hello again everybody. This time I'll be going over the tools that you would need to build Garden Railroad. And some of the basic things that I have in my workshop here is primarily a clamp, various hand tools. I also have a toolbox down there for when I need to travel around. Of course, you got spare parts such as the track and structures that have yet to be finished. Paint, of course, for the structures and other aspects of the railroad. Various wiring tools, which, by the way, I have more behind me here. And sandpaper. Now, sandpaper is really important for wood. This, I believe, right here is number 36 grit. It's very rough. I probably wouldn't use that on anything unless I absolutely had to. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have 600 grit, which is very fine, and that'll give you a nice finished look. Also, alternatively to sanding, you have a sanding sponge. It has various grits around on each edge. And that's very useful for sanding down structures. Now, some of the basic hand tools you might need would be various screwdrivers. You need a wire stripper, wire cutter. Of course, you can't do without a hammer and various saws. And as I mentioned earlier, clamps. Now this big clamp here is for holding large pieces of wood to be cut in place. Smaller clamps here can be used to hold the glued pieces in place. And as you know, hammers are used for hammering in nails. So with that, you need several types of nails. These are little thin nails, about 3/4 of an inch long. I also have 1/2 inch nails in the other bin. For really large pieces of wood, I have my handy dandy sharp saw by Expert. And this building, since it's an outbuilding, doesn't really have any power. So what I did is I made my own lights. And they weren't actually made by me. These were lights that were bought. But I have an extension cord which will run all the way to the house when I need power tools or lights. And speaking of power tools, one of the most important tools I found that you might need when building any kind of a railroad is a good old Dremel. The Dremel is basically like a small drill. You can do a lot of stuff with it, including grinding, sanding, polishing, and cutting. Another thing would be a miter saw. This is an old one. I don't use that too often, but it works really great for cutting up 2x4s. While we're over here, just have you take a look at epoxy. This is 2-ton clear weld epoxy. It is really good for making strong joints that need to last outside. Also, I don't have too much spare wood because I've used most of it, but spare wood is always a great thing to have in a shop. Of course, you can't do without a pencil sharpener somewhere in the house. I keep one of them outside in the shop. And up on top here is a rack for other spare wood. And that's about a big tour of the shop. Thanks for viewing.